Hi there, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name's Frederick Wheeler and today I'm going to talk to you about what notes does the Dungeon Master have to take. This video was requested by one of the subscribers, so here we go. So let's start off with, as a Dungeon Master, what do you actually put your notes on? I just use a A4 piece of photocopy paper and a plastic sleeve to slide everything into. You could use anything you like. You could use an exercise book, a notebook, refill paper, a folder, those clear slip folios that you can slide bits of paper in and out and store stuff. You could use your phone, a laptop, a tablet. Pretty much anything can go. Even those little small pieces of card that people buy, you can use them. Lots of different options. Next, what do you actually have to write notes on? Well, pretty much anything that isn't in your adventure book or isn't part of your adventure that you might need to call back on later on. So it's really going to come down to experience as to what you write down and what you don't. I tend to write down very, very little, but I will go over the things I do actually write down. So most important is any monsters that the players have fought and defeated, whether they run away, kill them, or make them surrender. It really doesn't matter. I need that information later on so I can calculate my experience points for the party, because I calculate experience points rather than using milestones. Really important is to record down what sort of treasure they find. If they find gold, silver, copper coins, electrum pieces, gems, any kind of magic items, any mundane items that they might find, anything that they might want to actually take from a particular location, whether it comes off a creature, a monster, an NPC, or simply comes out of a location. I write down very short notes on non-player characters or NPCs. Their character name if I have to make anything up on the fly, and often I do. Any sort of details I might have for that particular character, their motivations, any personality details if they have any, what they look like. Usually that comes down to just writing down bullet point notes. From time to time I make up a monster stat block, and I usually take about 5 minutes to do that, and I write down the details of that particular monster. I use the quick monster stat block creator in the Dungeon Master guide, and it has like a chart or table, and I will take down the details. So I will usually give the creature a name, basic description, and then I'm dealing with armor class, hit points, attack roll, damage output, and really that's pretty much all I need. I don't really need anything else. If there's anything else that I do need, then I might add that and tack that in later on. Sometimes I take that information and I turn it into an actual full-blown stat block for a monster, and sometimes it just gets used once and then I tip it. Every once in a while my players surprise me and I have to actually draw up a map very quickly. So that usually gets done yet again in about 5 minutes, and I will draw it up and I will write those details down, I will label it, and I might put monsters or treasure in those rooms or details, and that's stuff that I would write down. It's part of my Dungeon Master notes. One of the things I really struggle with are character names, not so much the player names, because people seem to have names that I can actually pronounce, but I think players take a rather sick joy in creating names that their Dungeon Masters cannot pronounce. So I tend to write down character names so that I call my players by their character name rather than by their real name, otherwise I will never learn their actual character name, and sometimes it can take a long time, as many of my players know. I always record the initiative order that I have in a combat, and this is because sometimes a combat will take too long and I'll need to stop in the middle, and I want to come back later on next session and continue on from there. So I always record down what the initiative order was and who is currently having their turn. So I usually write down like the name, what their initiative was, and then I'll tick for every round they have a turn. Then I know who had the last turn. Then there's the details on the monsters or the NPCs. So as I'm running a combat, particularly things like readied actions, I will actually write a note beside a character or a monster if it has a readied action, any conditions they might have, and as I go I cross those out. I might write down loss of hit points, always loss of hit points actually. I always write down how many hit points are lost as I go. I will record down any details in terms of whether they fled, whether they surrender, or whether they just got killed, or actually if sometimes the players will knock a creature out. So if they get knocked out, I'll record that as well, and if there was a conversation that took place during that encounter, combat encounter, or turned into a role play, social interaction kind of encounter, then I will write down some of the basic details of that as well. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I actually take very short notes. They're quite messy. Really, I don't think anybody would be able to understand what the heck they actually mean unless it was me reading them. Really, how you take your notes is really up to you, but those are the things that I take notes on. If there are other things that I should be taking notes on, I will take notes on them. But yeah, experience is usually a good indication. You'll figure out what you need to write down and what you don't. Alright, I have nothing more to say on what a Dungeon Master needs to write down in terms of note taking. I am sorry this video took so long. I actually put it together and I was editing it and looking at it, and in the end I actually thought, it just does not make any sense. It's repetitive in some locations, it's boring, and so I canned that mother and I've done it again. So here it is. If you found this video helpful, and I don't know that anybody would, but if you did, share, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make a comment below, tell me what do you write down as a Dungeon Master in terms of note taking so that you know what's going on. And until next time, keep rolling those 20s.